Okay, I think we got it. I think we got it. Can everybody see us now? Okay, yeah, I had to press a button over in YouTube. So, okay. Okay. And I think, at least according to this, we are live. So I'm kind of hoping we're live. Yes, good. Okay, people can see it. Yes, good. All right, we're online. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the live stream with our group weathering project. And as you can see, I have the illustrious Mudfather with me, the Ralph Renzetti. And part of what we're doing today is we're just kind of getting into the group weathering project. I'm sort of calling this the lockdown edition for everybody who's practicing social distancing, and I hope you are, and I hope you're staying safe. And so I'm just gonna, I just need to move over here, and I need to pop the chat out so I don't lose it on Windows. So
that's a good name for this. I like that.
yeah, what the lockdown edition?
The lockdown version. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that's pretty much it. I mean, people, depending on where you live, the varying degrees of gathering restrictions. Like here in Alberta, it's 15, and they really are trying to keep a check on things. So, for example, as Ralph, as I was saying to you yesterday, is that being in the kind of position that I am, Sunday mornings aren't usually a day of work. It is, and this morning, it was getting a whole bunch of worship resources out to people in my congregation. Oddly enough, by using YouTube, using my I don't mention this too much, but I do have another YouTube channel, and I was pushing stuff out on that, connecting people that way, and just trying to organize it. But it's turned out to be, for me, actually a lot busier than many people. I mean, those who are laid off obviously are simply at home. For me, there's a lot of calling people. But I wanted to provide this forum as a way that we can do kind of a group build. Now, over in chat, has anybody ever done a group build before? Do you know what a group build actually is? Because I'm really playing it fast and loose with this. So and again, welcome. So okay, Ralph, your video is frozen, so I'm gonna try and reload this, and try and get. Can everybody hear Ralph? That's the
Can
main.
I one? I'm moving here.
Okay, well, hang on. Maybe what I need to. Oh, there we go. I actually have to have the Skype window kind of tucked in a corner nearby. That's
okay.
That's what I have to do. So here. And but I have to resize it and kind of tuck it down here so I can actually see that it's working. So is Ralph moving now? Okay, so all right, good. Finally, okay. Technical issues aside, the thing is they changed a lot of the background stuff with YouTube. The YouTube, they've moved to a new system, and I've been using the old system as long as I can, but I don't have a choice. I really have to move it forward. So anyway, I hope everybody's staying well and staying safe. And part of what I wanted to do for today's live stream is really, I wanted to bring Ralph on board, especially because. Truthfully, he's had a great deal of experience in this. I'm very, very pleased to have him on board. Plus, he also wants to get in on what we're actually doing. Normally, when one does a group build, a group of people decide to do, hey, we are going to build this model, and we're all going to share our progress along the way. But I don't want you going out to a store in person picking up a model, because right now that not a good time to do that. So this is a great time to actually go into your stash, and so that's what I'm hoping and to pull something out and to try weathering it, whether you've done a lot of weathering or whether you've never done any weathering before, and you want to give this a try. And part of this is working with the stuff that you have. I know that Amazon is doing delivery and things like that, which you certainly can do, but be safe. But also is to kind of talk about we're doing things with the materials that we have. So I guess Ralph, for yourself, I trust you're keeping safe.
I am,
and the wanting to make sure that what do you have planned? What's something that you have on your plate that you'd like to be able to do?
I have some commission work to do. I've already done 12 N-scale locomotives, and I got another 4 delivered in the mail on Friday.
Wow.
A lot of them are repaint
mm-hmm.
and decals,
yep.
however you want to pronounce it.
We're Canadian. Let's use decals. Okay,
so I'm so used to being on the American chat that I'm starting to call it decals now.
Well, you don't have to do it here, Ralph.
So what I've been doing, N-scale for me is out of my realm. I'm an HO guy,
mm-hmm.
or bigger, but my layout is HO. But I'm working on this. This was a repaint. This I think was a cotton belt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Here's another one that was a repaint. This was Southern Pacific. So this one I've already started to weather.
Nice.
This one here is they're all tunnel motors.
Okay.
This one here is also a cotton belt. Mm-hmm. That I painted it in the CSX colors. So they're SD40 T-2s.
Okay.
And SD45 T-2s.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know whether you can see that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It doesn't want to focus.
Yeah, that's always the trouble. Is of course it's trying to focus on everything behind you. Actually, we caught it there.
There.
Nice.
So it went out of focus again. So that's what I'm working on currently,
mm-hmm.
and I'm going to be working on for a little bit as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
I got 4 delivered in the mail on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Two of these are Burlington Southern or Burlington Northern.
Okay.
And they want them done in Norfolk Southern.
Okay.
Then there's another one here that is, I guess it's Cotton Belt. No, it's Southern Pacific.
Okay.
Done in CSX.
Okay.
Southern Pacific done in NS.
Mm-hmm. So these are.
So I'm doing the whole thing.
Yeah. So they're outright repaints and then weathering on top of that.
Yep.
Okay. Now, just further to the conversation is, particularly when you mention N scale of doing repaints. One of the discussions that's often online, and I mean, I think you and I are on the same page on this, is especially when it comes to N scale, there's not really a need to strip the models down. You just simply go over them. Pretty much.
Okay. Unless the paint job, like the one that I did here, and I'm not sure what this is. Mm-hmm. It's either an SD45 or an SD40, but it has a long nose on it.
Oh, okay.
Compared to this nose,
mm-hmm.
you can see how much longer it is.
Okay.
But it has one extra section in the body back here,
mm-hmm.
whereas the other one doesn't. And the box says it's an SD40. I don't think it is.
Okay.
But yes, restripping, unless it's a really bad paint job or there's lots of scratches or whatever mm-hmm. that you have to account for. I don't normally strip it down. I just mm-hmm. put a base primer on,
mm-hmm.
and I use a product called Stynylrez.
Yes, How long have you been using the Tonal res now?
About 3 years, I guess.
Yeah, I only came across it about halfway through last year. And it's like, yeah, it's really
I
good.
gave up all my primers for this stuff.
Wow. Okay.
I was using the stuff you get at an auto body store,
Mm-hmm.
automotive primer,
Mm-hmm.
and that was working well for me.
Okay.
And working in the hobby store, I was introduced to this Steinl res,
Mm-hmm.
and I've thrown all my other primers away.
Mm-hmm. I have white and black in that, but I also have red brown, and I found the red brown
There's
works.
12 different colors.
I know. It like there's so many different colors, but the red brown works really good for
Yep.
hand priming steel metal wheels. Um,
If you have the opportunity to go to an auto body shop
mm-hmm.
and talk to the guy about primer colors
Mm-hmm.
and which primer colors are good for the base colors.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a specific setup. Like if you want yellow to turn out really nice and bright, put it on white. If you put it on red, it'll turn it orangey.
Mm-hmm.
If you put it on black, it'll almost go green.
Okay.
It's just a hue of green, right?
Right.
So you have to be careful how you mix your primers and your primary colors or your base colors.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Now, Matt Armstrong has just asked, what makes that primer better? He uses Proto White currently.
Proto white, proto.
I'm assuming the proto paint is the ones from Rapido.
Oh, okay. I have some of that paint too, but I don't have the primer.
Okay.
Now,
Matt,
yeah,
correct me if
paint.
I'm wrong.
So with whatever paint you use, I use Tamiya paints. I use whatever paints I can mix alcohol with. Mm-hmm. I use 99% alcohol, 70% alcohol. The higher the number, the less the water count. Try a sample. Mix it with water, then mix it with alcohol, then mix it with lacquer thinner. I usually try to airbrush my primers. I really don't like the aerosol, so I try to put it through an airbrush. Some paints, if you add water to it, the paint will literally fall out of suspension.
Yeah, well, the AK Interactive Real Colors, that with water, that's exactly what happens. Great paints, but you touch water with them, and they're they come right up.
Believe it or not, Tamiya does that too.
Really?
Yep.
Okay.
With water, but it mixes with alcohol, mixes with lacquer thinner, mixes with acetone.
So. Yeah, true. I mean, and yeah, granted, I haven't really tried too much as far as the Tamiya is concerned, but it was really obvious, particularly when, oddly enough, it wasn't in the actual mixing of the paint, but when I was working with the various, when I was working with the clear coats, is if there was any on the AK, not the Tamiya ones, I can rinse out the. I do an initial rinse with the alcohol or whatever I happen to use as thinner, but sometimes I clean it up by using the eyedropper in the water. And with the Tamiya, I didn't have too much trouble with that. But the AK stuff, as soon as anything that was damp touched, like had a little bit of water on it, touched it, it just gummed right up. So I have to be extra careful. I really like the AK paints, but I'm getting the
old AKs, not the AK, the new ones. What is it? The number 3, I think. What's the name they give it?
Yeah, it's the number 3 acrylics or Type 3 acrylics.
Okay, so that's the new one. I haven't tried those yet, but the old ones are an acrylic vinyl. And that's what's happening. When you mix the wrong thing with it, it turns to a gum or a jello type thing.
Yeah. Okay.
And don't ask me how I know that.
Well, I learned that the hard way with the Viejo model color line. They really don't like alcohol. Yeah. So anyway, so that the sort of the war stories of stuff. Hey, this is stuff that we've learned, and the hard way. And so we're
Yeah.
sharing it with you, so you don't have to go through the same thing. So that's part of that. Otto, yes, you can do Vallejo, but the suggestion of using Vallejo paints, use their own thinners.
Exactly.
If you can, don't use alcohol, don't use lacquer thinner, just use their own stuff. And
you can actually use the Testers universal acrylic thinner as well.
Go, yeah. Sorry. To point to Ralph, I've got to point this way. The trouble is he's here on my screen, so I have to make sure that I'm pointing in the direction.
I can't see you like I was saying, except for your icon at the top.
Oh, right. Yeah, I suppose I should kind of turn my. I'm going to turn my video on so you can actually see me. Up
there
in
we
the corner.
go.
Yeah, there we go. So this is more of a face-to-face conversation than my voice. Like everybody else can see me and everybody else can see you, but you can't see me. Now you can.
Right.
So anyway, so you've got 12 locomotives lined up, but you're also doing another series, and you've got another
model railroading live.
Yes. Yeah. And so that's the one that you're doing for model railroading live. Go ahead.
This one has I'm using the AK stuff on it. I've also used because this dynamic brake blister comes off.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there you go.
Okay.
It was much easier to do this fade and the rusting at the top. So it's actually burning through the paint.
Right.
In real life.
Yep.
Because of the heat.
Mm-hmm.
I've used Vallejo paints.
Okay.
Put on with a brush and very, very you can't get, it's just a 000 brush.
Yep.
So you want real small. I even sometimes paint with a toothbrush or a toothpick. So that's the side that hasn't got the AK on it yet.
Mm-hmm.
There's the side that does.
Nice.
Let me see if I can add some more light.
Yeah.
It's too much now.
I actually it brings it out. It makes it a little blue because it's different from the background. But
it's a daylight.
Yeah.
LEDs that I have.
Yeah, and unfortunately, like we've got LEDs up here. I actually have to hang plastic bags off the light above me, otherwise the shadows are too harsh.
Right.
And I forget to take them down, and it really annoys my wife and my daughter, who's right here.
So I don't know if you can see on the roof.
Okay.
It's all painted with a toothpick.
Okay.
But you have the rust that's breaking through the paint.
Okay.
And that's just a Tamiya. What the hell's the number? XF79. It's called Linoleum Deck Brown.
Oh, okay. That's certainly a new color to me. So, Container Man, welcome aboard. I'm just saying hi. Like I'm engrossed in what Ralph is presenting, but at the same time, I'm also trying to catch some questions here as well. Now, just as a bit of a way to what I'm kind of planning to do going forward. I mean, I've asked Ralph to share what he's doing with me, but one of the things that we could do is we can actually set up. I mean, in some respects, Ralph is my guinea pig, and it's working.
I got broad shoulders.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's looking at what Ralph is doing, but also if on the Facebook page that's attached that I've set up, that's or it's a Facebook group that's attached to the page, you can go in there and share the whatever it is that you're currently doing, and you can also text me through Facebook, and maybe what we can do is like what I'd like to do is to do more of these one-on-one sessions so we can kind of talk and look for different advice. And one of the reasons why I brought Ralph on board is that well, I mean, Ralph's reputation as a weathering guru here. I mean, despite the fact that I have I've gained a fairly reasonable following, this is the guy with the skills. And but one of the things that we've often talked about kind of in the background is how many different roads there are to get to certain techniques. and realizing that some of you may not actually be able to get any more weathering supplies than you currently have. So part of this is saying, how can you do do weathering with what you currently have in the house?
Right.
So that's going to be part of our conversations moving forward. I mean, yes, Bill, we possibly could do a group video chat. I do have access to Zoom. That is another possibility that we could potentially broadcast here, but we have to be a little careful on the security stuff, as we've discovered. And so that can also be a way to do that. Dave, BNF and Scale, good to see you. And so that's part of what we want to do moving forward is if you've got a project, go over to the Facebook group and share it there, and we can also have the conversations going back and forth. Tell us what you're doing. Show pictures.
You got questions? Ask your questions.
Yeah, and both Ralph and I are going to answer them, plus people within the community. And one of the things that I want to share, and I hope that I don't necessarily get shot for this from some of our American patriots, but I'm currently working on this Union Pacific locomotive, and you notice that I'm putting some wear on the flag.
Oh yeah.
And
why are you going to get picked on for that?
Oh, I don't know. I'm Canadian.
Mother Nature does it. Why should you get blamed?
I know. But it's like a Canadian stomping on the flag. But it's like,
no.
Look, this is replicating something that we would experience in real life. Now, the person who commissioned me to do this particular locomotive. Now, this is a BLI. Notice that all the railings are still on, and I am currently weathering it, and that's because it's all stuck together. I mean, taking this thing apart scares me, so I'm just going to weather it in place. I've masked off the windows, and I'm just going to work with what I am able to do. But I also, for this particular one, Abtlung, if you look really, really carefully, I don't know if you can see it. There's kind of a gradient color between top and bottom, as opposed to just straight yellow. That's from the Abtlung Oils puts out a couple of five oil kits, like 5 paint oil kits, and that's the aircraft weathering set, and it came with exactly the right colors that I needed to not only do that, because it had 2 different shades of yellow plus a cream brown, but it also had blue. And so I'm able to do it with the other one in this commission, which is the CSX. And so that's my current project, and I do have another one that is an unboxing.
Before you go on to the next one, can I ask you a question on that one?
Sure.
Since now it's my turn to ask the question.
Absolutely.
So with your weathering on that locomotive,
yes.
What exact colors are you using to tone down the brightness of the yellow?
In this, like on this one, well, you might notice that I've also masked off the road number.
Yep.
Yep. That's because in the prototype, it looks like the number has been patched, and in this particular case, the distinguishing feature that I haven't got to yet is a very, very, very light fade. Like it goes to almost like I put the tone differences in first, and then I'm probably going to come back with a way to try and make the whole thing just really, really light, like sun bleached white.
Okay.
And that's sort of the next step. So any advice you'd have for me doing that moving forward?
If you can take a piece of styrene plastic.
Okay.
I mean, not now, but in the future, take a piece of styrene plastic, and if you can sort of replicate the original yellow color, go through the steps you've already gone through.
Yep.
And you know how the military guys use dots of color?
Yes.
Okay. So because your railings are in the way, you can't stroke it down.
Yes.
But you can dab. Okay.
Yep.
In amongst all those dots of color, which are probably going to be 2 or 3 different shades of yellow, maybe a white, maybe even a grimy color.
Yep.
Put in a couple of dots of red.
Okay.
And it'll bring it down. If you look at a color wheel, look at the
Mm-hmm.
opposite of yellow.
Yeah.
I don't have my color wheel handy.
Yeah,
But
I think
actually purple is opposite yellow, if I remember correctly.
yes, it is.
So a variation of purple is red, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, I could mix up. I'm sure I could mix up a purple.
But you only want a very small dot
Mm,
occasionally. So when
okay,
you're dabbing it, you're blending it in with all the other colors.
right. And so the idea is you want me to desaturate the color
Yep.
by doing that.
And it'll the blending will be more at the top,
Mm-hmm.
and then of course you do your heavy work at the top and then sort of drag it down if you can.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I debated if I should do an airbrush with a very slight little bit of purple in there as doing that. But given that the railings are in place, I think, as you suggest, the dot fade is probably is going to be easier to work with these
Right.
railings. So good. So Cloverdale Rail, hi. I'm just checking over for questions. So here, this is an example of how
the
we're
other tip
sharing
you
back
mentioned.
and forth. Yes.
You mentioned a tip there earlier. You said in the prototype picture.
Yes.
If for any reason you are asked to do weathering or you're doing it for yourself, don't do it from your head.
Right.
Do it from a prototype picture.
Yeah.
It may not be the exact picture that you want or the exact road name you want, but the weathering effect is there.
Yes.
Do it from a prototype photograph.
And one of the fortunate thing is the person who's commissioned me for this, Flora. I don't know if he's in the chat or not. He actually sends me a raft of prototype pictures and says, these are the effects I'm looking for, even if it's a case of this particular locomotive was never weathered in that way. It's what he wants on this particular locomotive.
Right.
Like for example, this CSX one is going to see a lot of rust. And so that's a lot of rust, a lot of fading, and that's what I'm working towards with those two. And he's given me a whole bunch of prototype photos, and that's extremely useful because they're my anchor point in terms of what I'm working towards. And so, for example, the Union Pacific, the main thing is how faded this one is. That's the main signature feature. Whereas this one, it's a really mottled look and a lot of rust. And also having to do something with kind of fading out the blue, but it's in some places it's almost like peeled, and so that's kind of that's sort of the effect that I'm working with soon. So. All right. Okay, so now one of the other pieces that I've got now that I've got Bill Morey, the Bill, is that how you pronounce your name, Morey or Morey? Anyway, because he's also sent me something that I'm going to unbox in a moment or two, but I guess, Ralph, is there anything else in terms of suggestions to people out there in terms of just getting into weathering? What would you recommend to?
Well, we talked about going into your stash. In your stash somewhere, there's got to be some old stuff that you're not really too keen on, or that maybe is at the bottom of the list. That's going to take a lot of work to bring it up to snuff. Use that as your practice subjects. And I would say go out to a garage sale or a flea market and buy up the real cheapies that maybe there's a truck missing or the couplers are not there or the old horn hook couplers. Get them for $2-3 a piece. That's the kind of stuff you want to practice on. And the more you practice, the better you get.
Yeah.
The better you get, the more confidence you build.
And so, for example, Ralph and I are talking locomotives. Now, many of you may not feel like, I don't necessarily want to do a locomotive. That's fine. Work with the rolling stock. That's the best place to start. And frankly, rolling stock's a lot more forgiving in many respects than locomotives.
Yep.
So,
But again, use a prototype photograph.
Yeah. Rail. Now, do you? What's your preference for a reference database?
I have what is it? Railroadpictures.net or is it .org? I can't remember.
I think it's .net.
The other one is local photos.
Mm-hmm.
Just hang on a second here. I can bring it up. Oh, come on. You went in the wrong spot.
Of course.
Real photos.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So, Matt, you had Matt Armstrong. You had some advice that you had bought, 10 cheap hoppers to learn with. Yeah, and so at $3 each, honestly, they don't owe you anything, and not only that, the as you put them together, even if you're not happy with them, especially treat these as the background ones.
That's right.
And they can still run on your railroad. I mean that's going to be fine. So
the test pigs.
Okay, actually, I just
there's one site that I go to, localphotos.com.
Okay.
And the other part of their site is called railcarphotos.com.
Okay, I'm going to put that link in the chat.
You have to become a member. It doesn't cost anything, but it gives you access to all the photos.
So localphotos.com.
Yep. And if you click on the home button on that page, you'll also see railcarphotos.com. Mm-hmm. And they go by category and road name.
Okay, and I'm also putting the railroadpicturearchives.net up there.
That's one. The other one is Railroad Picture Archives.
Yeah,
and Pictures.
And Realpictures.
Realpictures.net.
.net. So okay, I've hopefully got those out to people. So these are your prototype, and even if it's not the same road number, the idea is use it as you see a certain effect. You want to try that and look at it. And there's different ways to do that, but the forum is a way that we can currently do that. So I'm quickly curious about something. Okay, so all right. I just want to make sure that the Skype window doesn't lock up on us again.
So I think when you ask somebody a question regarding weathering, like you have two of us here now.
Yes.
And you ask, let's say you have a prototype photograph, and you want to or some suggestions. How would you weather this? Well, there's a photograph. How would you weather this? Well, you'd probably get 3-4 different explanations, maybe even more. There are so many different ways to do it. I found with my weathering, I did for Model Railroading Live. I have a weathering show, but I've had some people come back to me and say, well, you're using expensive products. I use Winsor Newton oils. I'm using the 502s, but that wasn't in the video. And I have people coming back to me saying, you're using expensive stuff. Can I use the cheap stuff? Or like the stuff I get at Walmart or whatever. And I tell them, you can use whatever you want. I'm telling you what works best for me. I've used those, and I've come to the realization that these are going to perform best for me 99 out of 100 times. So this is what's going to work best. It's up to you to develop your own system. We're giving you the tips on how to get there.
Yes, and just further to what Ralph says is that there's no one weathering product out there that will instantly give you the effect that you're looking for. It's a matter of learning and building things up. But there are many different paths to get there. For example, rust streaking can be done very well using oil paints. But recently, I actually did a locomotive start to finish with almost entirely with the new weathering pencils from AK Interactive. And
you can also use the gouaches.
Yes,
which basically is watercolor.
Yeah.
And instead of a water, you use Microsol. as your damp brush to drag the streak down. It works beautifully.
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, I actually did use I actually used a cheap gouache to create the
Festered rush.
No. I mean, I may try the Festered rust, but in this case, it was a steam locomotive that I just finished, and actually, I need to. I'm going to post a bunch of the pictures up to Patreon and then cross post it. For for Rick of the Switch List, who happens to be in chat. And there's a very subtle effect. You almost can't see it in the pictures, where I actually did a wash with the gouache paints on the top using black. And because of the way it dries, it actually creates that kind of mottled effect of soot that gets shot out of the top of the smoke box, hits the steam, and then condenses, and then sort of comes back down on the top. And I didn't even realize that was a weathering thing until I was at Heritage Park here in Calgary and was looking at a steam locomotive up close, and you could see this kind of where the soot, and I mean, that was fuel oil. That wasn't even coal. It was a neat effect to try. So that there's an example of using an inexpensive gouache paint as well. So. And okay, there's a question here from Robin Felder in Switzerland, and he's wondering, what is your preferred first layer when you're weathering, and he's asking in terms of a clear coat.
Okay,
what do you start with?
You have to have in your mind where you're going to go from there. Are you going to use the AK products or MIG products? Or are you going to do with acrylics and watercolors and that sort of thing? Because that'll determine what to use first. I originally, when I started doing this, I did a dull coat for everything. And then I started using the AK products. Where are we? MIG Ammo and AK Interactive. MIG Ammo, AK Interactive. These are mineral-based products. And the mineral spirits, or the white spirits as they call it, attacks dull coat. And it actually dissolves the dull coat. I was in Ottawa doing a display demo, and I had already done some pre-work with the dull coat, and I was showing them how to use this product. And as I'm going down with my brush, I was taking the dull coat off with the mineral spirits, and it was turning gummy.
Ooh.
Yeah. So you have to realize what you're going to use afterwards. If you're going to use an acrylic or a water-based product, no problem using dull coat. The watercolor pencils, watercolor gouaches, that's fine. But then if you're going to you want to use the AK after that, seal it with an acrylic. And when I go to these mineral-based products, I put a semi-gloss, not a dull coat, a semi-gloss. They tend to work better when you do that, because the idea is to streak them down. And when it's dull coat or matte, they want to go this way instead of down. And they want to go sideways.
And with the satin, like as opposed to, say, going to a full gloss. If you go to a full gloss, it doesn't kind of leave the stain that you want in the streaks.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. Which I think is like having that full range of like matte for acrylics, gloss if you're doing mineral based washes, and
on that so far
for streaks.
On that so far, I've done. I started off with a Tamiya, a mix of clear and white, thinned to 90%. So it's 10% paint.
Okay.
And that's my fade.
Okay.
On top of that, I went with the watercolors and the acrylic paints. And now I'm going to the AK stuff. So I'm going to coat this now with the semi-gloss.
Okay.
Acrylic. I could have started out with dull coat, but now I've changed that start point. I finish off with dull coat.
Mm-hmm. Very good. And so Robin, I hope that answered your question. Someone just posted a question on what is festered rust. It sounds cool, and can you go into details, please?
It is. It's beautiful when it works,
Mm-hmm.
and I say when it works. So you have to practice. This is where your practice comes in.
Yeah.
I buy. When I first started doing this, my first attempt at buying supplies for doing this, I had to go and buy some makeup sponges. So I said to my wife, because there's a beauty supply house near us, I said, "You're coming with me because I'm not going in there alone." So she came with me. I got my makeup sponges, and I also bought just a pump bottle of extra hold hairspray.
Mm-hmm.
This stuff works wonders.
Oh yes.
And what you do is you just put some out in a little paint pot or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You dip your brush in it. Then from your brush, you go into now I can't get this open, into your powder, and this is paint pigment powder. This is what's it called now? It was AIM Products. Now it's
Monroe.
Can't think. Monroe. That's it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, they're selling them through Athern, so you can have it delivered. You don't have to go out and get it. So you with the really wet brush of hairspray, you dip it in here, and then you dip it on the corners of the roof.
Mm-hmm.
This is a little bit bigger, so it'll be easier to. Let me take it off.
Yeah.
You go into the corners, into these areas where I have the paint marks, and you put the paint pigment that you have on the brush with the hairspray into those areas.
Mm-hmm.
If that's not enough, you go back and get some more powder and you put it on again.
Mm-hmm.
You let it dry, and then you come back with the gouaches on a sponge. And now that it's dry, it's not going to go anywhere. And the sponge, when I use them, they're not soaking wet; they're damp. If I was to push it on a paper towel, it would not leave a moisture mark, but it's damp to the touch. And with the paint on it, you can see I got some on there now.
Mm-hmm.
So with the hairspray and that, you come back with the color you want of the paint you already have on there, and you just blend it in. So now it doesn't look like it's different. If you want to make it different, well, like with fresh rust, then you come back with a paintbrush and you just add a little bit of lighter rust.
Mm-hmm.
But then you have this little bubble of brown that looks like a blister.
And this is why this is the Mudfather. So as much as people come to me for advice, if I've said before, there's a lot of people who are a lot better at this than I am, and certainly, I'm going to say Ralph is really showing us what we can do here. Now, actually, Ralph, I thought maybe I'd take a moment to share one of the other projects that I have coming my way. And because it's a matter of what are like part of this is also just sharing what are you doing, because whether you're working from home or you're unfortunately hope not too many people are laid off, but that is a reality right now. Is if you've got more time on your desk, what are the things that you're working on? And so
the honey-do list just got longer.
Well,
my honey-do list now has chapters.
We have to we've been doing a fair bit around the house because I don't know if you noticed the stairs here. There's no carpet on there.
No carpet. I noticed that yesterday.
Yeah, well, we redid the floor upstairs, and when we took we only got enough flooring to do upstairs, but the whole reason that we were when we bought this house going on 8 years ago, It was for a brief 3-month period where shag carpet was back in vogue.
Oh yeah.
And it wasn't very good shag carpet, and we have cats, and they treat it like a cat tree, and they just wrecked it. So we thought, frankly, bare wood steps are better than crappy carpet. So that's kind of where things are at with that. So this is one of the projects. Anyway, so what I wanted to share is that Bill Morey has sent me
Rapido drains.
Yes. So this is
Ooh.
The next project. So this is an actual on-screen unboxing here. So Bill, if you're here, just put up your hand and wave, because this one's for him. And so I'm unboxing this one.
I'm gonna post on that page my blue bonnet that I did.
Okay. Because Bill, can you remind everybody, because I don't have it at my fingertips, as to the actual road, the road number that this is going to be painted to? Because if you look carefully here, this is undecorated. Like the railings themselves actually have come separate, and this is just straight from
Rapido.
Straight from Rapido. Well, maybe not quite straight.
So what road name is going to go on?
So Bill, yes. Can you share the road name that this is going to be under? Now this is not going to be a heavily weathered one. This is going to be, because the short line that Bill is doing, they keep them actually fairly clean. But
okay, I thought it was the cover of the box.
Yeah, so there it is. I mean, it's basically it's plastic, no numbers, but you notice that there are no railings on it, like straight out of the box.
Right.
And so I'm just gonna put this back down here, because the railings themselves are right here. So one of my tasks is to not only paint the railing, some of these are in fact, these appear to be painted in some way, shape, or form, because there's yellow at this end. But anyway, so that's also one of the things that I will have to make sure that I work on. And there's also a whole bunch of little pieces here,
add-ons.
Yeah, that I've got to figure out.
Fuel tanks, air tanks, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and so that's part of that's all going to be part of this build. And now it's not going to be a lot in the way of. There we are. The Finger Lakes Railway is what this is going to be. And Bill is in process of sending me the decals for this. Yes, decals.
Decals. So decal decals.
Yeah. Anyway. So
can I relay a story on handrails?
Please. And
do. I'm not sure whether I told you this one already, John, but I was doing. Do you know Chris Lyon, CNLVN?
I think so.
Okay. Anyway, I did an AC 4400 for him in Burlington Northern Pumpkin Scheme.
Mm-hmm.
The NSF. And I was putting the railings back on, and the railing that goes from the step up to the cab, it goes up, makes a little turn, and goes into the nose of the cab because it's got the wide cab. I had them in my tweezers, and the way I put the railings back on again is I try to get one of the ends of the railing into the hole that it belongs, or close to it, so I can push it in with my finger. Well, being that the railings are made out of that slippery plastic called Delrin.
Yes.
I was squeezing too hard with the tweezers. And I was working in my hobby room upstairs, so it had no carpet on the floor. And when something falls on the floor, you can hear the general area it went to.
Yeah, I've got concrete downstairs, and yes,
it flew out of my tweezers. I did not hear a thing.
Oh no!
I spent an hour and a half on the floor with a flashlight, putting the flashlight along the floor so you'd see anything that sticks up above. And I was pulling my hair out. I got back on the computer that I had on my desk to see if Cato was still putting this thing out.
Yep.
No.
Oh no.
Parts not available. So I couldn't even buy a new set of railings.
Uh-huh.
So I thought, okay, shit. Pardon me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go down. I'm going to just take a break. Make myself a tea or a coffee or something. Take a break from this. So I go down into the family room. I'm sitting there with my wife watching TV, and the cat came walking by. And there on the cat's back was the railing.
Oh boy. Yeah. The
Static Static electricity held it there. The cat didn't even know it was there.
Oh well, I mean, at least you found it. So now Matt's put a question here, or more of a statement in terms of using an adhesion promoter when you paint railing. Any other suggestions that you'd have for getting paint to stick to the delvin?
There is a product, and I don't use it on the railings anymore because it dries up too quickly.
Mm-hmm.
It's a product you get from the people who make Microsol. They have this spray pump thing.
Okay.
And I think there's 3 or 4 bottles in the series. I got the one. It's $20 for a 2-ounce bottle.
Okay.
And I thought, oh, geez, this is expensive. So when I paint my trucks, I use Rust-Oleum camouflage paint, the chocolate brown.
Yep, I've actually got.
And I spray them, and that paint seems to stick to it.
Okay. And so you'd almost use that kind of like, so for example, if you'd suggest for the railings for this,
well,
is that
the other thing, and I've heard from guys that work in body shops. They used to have an adhesion promoter for doing plastic bumpers on a car.
Okay.
And you can buy it in a spray can. I don't know how much it costs, and I don't even know the name of it. You best go to a body supply company or an auto body shop and find out. Maybe they'll even sell you an ounce or two.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and like that would be one of the things where, unfortunately, for those of us in areas where essential businesses are only essential businesses are functioning right now.
No, I'm thinking about later, right?
Oh yeah, no, and that very much, like there's the what we can do now, and what we can look to do later, and so we kind of do a little bit of both. As a matter of fact, in terms of essential businesses, we got news. AK Interactive and Ammo by MiG are both out of Spain. Spain is now down on lockdown, and both AK Interactive and Ammo by MiG are required to close, and they will be closed until April 13th or so. You can still make orders, but they're not shipping anything until April 13th at the earliest at this point in time. So in part, the as much as we'd like to order these things, unless you can find it on Amazon that will still ship. I
have a local hobby shop that carries these products, and although he's not open, he's open to phone orders. And if I drive by, he will leave them out. When I get there, he'll put them outside the door for me. Yeah.
And I think like we're not at the same stage as where Spain is at least at this point in time. But the idea is also be prepared that if you're doing it, what can we do with it? What's in the house? So that might be a topic that kind of comes up in the process. So yeah. Thank you for your lost part story. I have. Regrettably, and I'm going to do Will Kling. You're on here. That switcher locomotive that I did for him. Somewhere in the process, the horn fell off, and it's an N scale horn. So I mean, it's like that. It's that big. I still
1/8 of an inch long.
I still can't. I still can't find it. And so I have to do a lot of mea culpa. No, I mean to see it on the locomotive, you have to see it. But it's still, this is something that he gave to me, and the horn fell off. It's like, and I thought, hey, now here's something else that I'm going to be kind of sharing is that I now have a 3D printer. That I'm still figuring out how to use because a friend of mine said, "Hey, John, you're interested in a 3D printer?" And I said back to him, I said, "Sure, I'm always interested." And I was curious and thought he would be giving me advice. No, he gave me one. A Lulzbot Taz Lulzbot TAS 6, which is enormous. I mean, it's big enough to print a basketball, but it's a filament printer. So it's not the resin type. So it's not as useful for doing fine detail parts. So I thought, hey, maybe I can print a new horn for Will. And
it'll do a horn.
Yeah, but I don't know if it'll do a horn in any scale. So that's...
yeah, right.
Maybe. But I can certainly give that a try. Oh, looks like your beverage and my beverage are the same.
Why not?
Yeah. Well, hey, that product endorsement. Anyway, so this is also sort of something that I'm kind of fiddling with when I have the time. But the priorities, of course, are on these two locomotives and the new one from Bill. So Shane's Trains, welcome in. So I guess the question is, probably one of the better ways to ask a question is in the chat itself. I mean, if you do a super chat, we'll notice it right away. But I mean, be that as it may, just do and then my address and post the question there, and then I can see ones that come up. So I think maybe we can open up this to questions. We've been at this for an hour. I don't want to keep Ralph for too long.
Well, if you can't get to the questions now, they can actually put them into the webpage, right?
Yes,
or into the Facebook page.
Yeah. So as a matter of fact, let me pull up. I'm going to pull up that link, and just give me a moment here, and so that you've got a direct link. You do have to ask to be let into the group. So, but I'll very quickly approve anybody who comes into this. So let me just. I need to pull up my various chat windows and back, and there we go. Okay, so there's the group where a lot of this discussion is going to take place. You're going to have access to both Ralph and myself, but also People's Collective and Experience. Okay. Will, you're asking a question of what are the tones used for? Like, are you talking in terms of what I here we are, what I did on this. Unfortunately, you can't see it all that well, but you notice that if you look carefully, you can kind of see that it's kind of a darker yellow towards the bottom and a lighter yellow at the top. The actual yellow that it came with is somewhere in the middle. And actually, if you look just like right here on the battery boxes, especially, it just kind of gives a variation in color. It makes it more interesting to look at. And like some real life examples do have that, but also one of the things when it comes to modeling is that you actually want people to keep looking at something. And by adding tonal variations, it's a way of doing it. Ralph, have you ever looked at the color modulation techniques that the military modelers have been using?
I have. I use it to some degree, not a whole lot.
Mm-hmm.
I mostly do it with my airbrush fades when I start,
mm-hmm.
and then after I've done my weathering, if it needs some more, then I'll add some more. But
mm-hmm.
That's about it.
Yeah. Because I mean, there's some places in that like when you first see them do it, it looks really extreme, looks almost artificial, and yet by the time all the weathering is piled onto it, you don't see it, but it still draws your eyes across the model.
There's an example, the dynamic brake blister there.
Okay.
One of them is more gray than the other.
Yes.
And that's what I wanted, because this is the one that has the burn on it.
Okay.
And that one doesn't.
Okay. Good. So there's a question from Butch Eiler. What is the difference between using water and basically microsol when using gouache? And he says he mainly uses gouache for weathering with water. So what do you find the difference?
Okay, so I don't use water. I take, and I don't have the bottle here. I put it in a pump here. This stuff is from the window washer of my car.
Oh, okay.
So this is what I use. I wet my sponges with this. I dip my brush in it if I want to streak something. If I'm doing rust dots that are streaking down the side of a boxcar or something, I will use the microsol because it's almost instant.
Mm-hmm.
The water has to dissolve it. The microsol, it's almost instant.
Mm-hmm.
You get a better result from oil paints, but it can be done with gouaches as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the by the way, I don't know if Ralph, if you can hear this or not, but in the background, my son is watching Frozen 2. He's at the top of the stairs there. I'm just anyway. Uh, so actually, there's another question from Robin Felder here. When he posted pictures of the DJJX gondolas, and you commented on them
Yep.
on the Facebook page,
Yep.
or on the Facebook group, and he was wondering if you might be able to show him with one or two pictures of steps of how you can do that. I mean, he's suggesting that you do it on the page, but I mean, if you can give a quick explanation now.
Yep. I suggested to him he take a pencil sharpener and take the graphite out of it, or if you can buy graphite in the squeeze tube, just you use the graphite and you put it in the car and you scrub it into the bare spaces where the paint would sort of wear off with your whatever you got in it, coal, whatever. It's going to take the paint off as it goes out. So you take it out of your pencil sharpener or wherever you want to get it. The other way to do it, if you have it on hand or have access to it, MIG has a thing called gunmetal. And I don't know whether you can see the shine on that.
Yeah.
It basically, to me, this is graphite.
Yeah. And
when I do my my trucks, I take a graphite pencil. Where is it? I have a graphite pencil that I do the top edge of the truck with the pencil. This is a 3B.
Okay, so
you can use HB, something soft, just to do the top edge, and then you go back with your finger and it spreads it out a bit, and it gives it that sheen. Although everything else is rusted, it gives that metallic look.
Like I actually have again from the military modeling days that I had. I actually have a graphite pencil. It's a soft graphite, but it's all graphite. There's no wood to it at all. And sometimes
that's like this one.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly that. And
it's all graphite with a paint coating on it.
Yeah. And sometimes like I would. I can use it just from the pencil itself and around on the tops and the edges as you suggest. Something else that it's also really good for is if you scrape a little bit off and put some on your finger and rub it on a surface, it actually gives it a really nice metallic sheen. And oddly enough, it's the oils on your fingers that works, because sometimes to apply it, there's some sort of, you can do this with artist wax as well, but and which I have some, but it's buried someplace. I haven't used it in a while. It was just, because my finger seems to work just as well. So, all right. So with that, I'm thinking that, Ralph, I should probably turn you loose, unless there's something else you want to share at this point. Oh, you've got something there.
True Metal.
True
Metal by AK.
Okay.
This is the same thing, but it's in a paste.
Okay.
And you can rub it on with your finger. The military guys use this on the high points of the tread.
Okay.
So that's the part that makes contact with the pavement.
Right.
So there's going to be no rust, no paint, nothing. It's going to be shiny.
Yeah.
And that's what they use.
Okay. So that basically at any point where something has is in constant, like say for example, if you're doing a power shovel or a bulldozer or something like that, would that be something that you would use on kind of the lower part of the blade where it's constantly in contact with gravel and constantly shiny? Okay.
The front edge. Yeah. Exactly.
Okay. And no, I think that's good. So with that, if you have any other questions, everyone, pile on over to the Facebook group. I put the link once in. I'm just going to quickly paste it again. And
you want to shoot it to me in Facebook?
Yes.
Or in Messenger, so that I've got it, so I can go in and comment and post some pictures.
Well, as a matter of fact, I'm going to do that right now. I mean, you're already in the group there, Ralph. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but I'm just did that did that quickly. It's on the Facebook group, not the page, because on the page only I can post, but in the group everybody can, and so that's the main sort of source for that, and probably the better place to do it. Just got to bring my chat window back up because of reasons. Okay. And there's opportunities for us to be able to do this. I'm I will do what I can to have these chats on maybe on a weekly basis. This week was like kind of last minute doing this, and this appears to be a good time to catch people both in Europe and of course here in North America. And so if this seems to be a good time, maybe it would be something that we are able to do, at least as long as the lockdown here. Well, it's not really a lockdown. I'm allowed to go outside. I'm allowed to go to the grocery store, but you got to keep 6 feet away. And and the way that I approach this is that I'm not assuming that everybody else is infected. I'm assuming that I'm infected, and I don't want to give COVID to anybody else. Now, we've now been in social distancing for almost 2 weeks. I've got about a 3 more day window before I can necessarily say that I was sort of out in public regularly before we started doing social distancing. We had started doing some of that about 2 weeks ago, but it's a matter of just kind of doing that and hoping everybody stays healthy and safe. And what I'm hoping that at least with what Ralph and I are doing here, and with everybody else, of keeping you sane in the middle of this, because this isn't going to be sort of some short thing. We're going to be in this for a little while. So again, healthy, safe, and sane. And if this is one way that we can help do that, then great. So. Exactly. So with this, anyway, to everybody else, thank you so much, Ralph. We'll talk just briefly after once I shut the stream down. But
okay.
But to everybody else, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your questions. To everybody who didn't get a question answered, post it over in the Facebook group. And good luck, and may you keep.
We talked about. I have to interfere.
Okay.
We talked about this yesterday.
Yes.
There's no stupid questions.
Yes.
The only stupid question is the one you did not ask.
Yes, and so, Ralph and I are fully on board. I completely forgot that. Thank you for bringing that up, Ralph. There is no such thing as a stupid question. Any question is valid, and so please ask it. So with that, and thank you to everyone else. And now, good luck, and may you keep on track.